Okay, welcome everyone back to the Boiling Point. This is episode 15, the football discussion. I am joined here by a man who is hopefully going to become my co-host the more as time goes on here. Nick, we're going to call him Ms. Paul while he's on the show. Ms. Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm glad to be able to be here today.
Good. We are going to talk about football, but first I'm going to make some money. So make sure you go over to Facebook. Go to facebook.com/JDEDESIGNz. That's with a Z at the end of it. To look at some posters, buy some posters. Also go to facebook.com/The Boiling Point Podcast. That is all the podcasts I share there, as well as on YouTube. I'm also starting a storefront, so I will have that web address up in the description, but I don't have it right now, so because I don't have it finished yet. But I will have a storefront instead of all the separate addresses for all the gear that I have. I'm just gonna have one web address so that you can go and get everything for JDEDESIGNz or the Boiling Point, nice and easy for everybody to follow.
There we go.
So now that we've taken care of the money, which is trickling slowly in, by the way. We're going to talk about football. So, Ms. Paul, football right now with coronavirus and everything is definitely... It's not been too bad. There's been a couple of players and a couple of teams that have had outbreaks, but nothing too bad. No team's been shut all the way down or anything like that, which is more than you can say for basketball.
This is true.
So, we're on a good side there. But injuries. It's a big season for injuries.
It's been a painful year.
Yeah, the Eagles are a team that's been plagued by injuries. They've lost a number of linemen. They got third and fourth string offensive linemen playing in some of their positions, just like the Cowboys do a little bit.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Cowboys are down to their fourth string quarterback now.
Yeah. Ain't that something?
And whose name I don't recall. I'll look that up quick.
I'm not sure myself.
What about that injury with Dak there? Did you got to see that, right?
Oh, yeah. And, when you bust an ankle up like that, and let's just talk about what that does to your career for a minute.
Yeah, it's certainly going to he only broke the leg. He didn't tear ligaments or anything, isn't that right?
So I'm not sure what all he broke or didn't break. I didn't get that information. I saw the video.
Oh, okay. Hold on one second, because I did forget to introduce somebody, because it's not just Ms. Pa and I here this evening. Also, we have off-screen, backstage, behind our lovely beach view, is The Breeze. The Breeze, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing very well. She asked how I was doing. For anybody who can't see her, she does not have her own microphone yet, because we are very low-tech and low-budget. But... the Breeze, since we were talking about Dak Prescott right now and injuries, could you see if there's a recent medical update on his status or what exactly happened? We know certainly he broke a bone, at the very least. We can tell that from the video.
One.
Yeah, we can at least tell that from the video.
I'm no doctor, but I'm pretty sure your foot's not supposed to turn that way.
No, your leg. Really.
Well, your leg.
Below the knee.
Yeah.
It was a horrific sight. I got to see it when it happened. Actually, I was watching Red Zone at the time, and I got to see it when it happened. I was like, wow, no.
Yeah, it was definitely a little cringeworthy, especially, with me being a Cowboys fan.
Yes.
I'm definitely concerned about how this is going to affect Dak in the future, because in football, as a quarterback, once you break something, then you start becoming a little more injury prone. Things start becoming... You start missing games, and then you start missing more games, and, it's just a downhill slide usually.
You think it'll affect his career? Like, you think this is... he's pretty young yet. You think it's going to be an injury that's bad enough that it'll affect his game?
I don't think it's going to affect his game in the short term. Once he heals up, obviously he's going to be a little tender for a while. But once he's fully healed, I think he'll be all right for a couple of years. But then, once he starts getting them hits and starts getting, the miles on those legs, it's going to start taking its toll. I think it's definitely an injury that's probably going to shorten his career.
Yes, that's certainly. I guess you're right about that. It could possibly shorten his career. That's what I was seeing if the Breeze could find a recent injury report. The Breeze, did you find a recent injury report?
I found a couple things here. I'm trying to see which is the most legitimate.
That's fine. You can take your time with that. We want a legitimate information here on the Boiling Point podcast, so please take your time with that. In the meantime, I can tell you that Ben DiNucci is the quarterback is the current quarterback for the Cowboys. He's the one that's backing up Andy Dalton.
Bless you.
Yes. You know what? He almost beat the Steelers, though. The undefeated Steelers this past weekend. I mean, they had a chance to win. They didn't pull it out at the end for probably a number of different reasons, but they were in a position. It was certainly, at least Dallas' defense. I haven't seen them play like that in a decade. I mean, to hold the Steelers to, I think they only had 3 touchdowns in the game and then a couple of field goals, but the Steelers have been, trouncing people, so... they put themselves in a position to try and have a chance there.
Do you know offhand what the Steelers' injury report looks like?
The Steelers, they haven't really lost.
They're one of the few teams that are fairly whole yet.
Yeah, I mean, Roethlisberger took some hits in that game, and he was holding himself and stuff. I don't think he was injured, but he did take some hits in that game. But the Steelers are pretty much, I haven't heard too much about the Steelers losing too many people or anything like that I'm aware of. Of course, I'm not completely up to date. I can't keep track of everything. But as far as I know, no, the Steelers haven't taken too many injuries or anything like that.
I have a report here from the Dallas Morning News that was just published, it looks like, on November 9th.
Okay, so from the Dallas Morning News on November 9th, what did they say about Dak Prescott?
They're saying Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott's recovery from ankle injury is ahead of schedule.
Okay, so we sent the Breeze to look up an injury report on Dak Prescott, and we got an information from say it again, the Dallas Morning...
The Dallas Morning News.
The Dallas Morning News says that his ankle injury is progressing better than expected.
And they're hoping he should be ready for the 2021 season.
That I would believe that he would be ready for the 2021 season, but it's pretty apparent that nobody in the team they're obviously not releasing much to the press, if that's all there is, because an ankle injury, that is the nicest way I've ever heard of calling a compound fracture. What about you?
Yeah, that definitely is what that looked like to me, was a compound fracture.
That's what I'm saying. And
things just don't magically all of a sudden bulge out the side of your leg like that.
Yeah.
Without there being a compound fracture, or at the least.
Yeah. An ankle injury is certainly is a very, very nice way to put that.
And people aren't out an entire season for just a minor injury.
Yeah, an ankle injury. Yeah, most ankle injuries are a few weeks, certainly not the whole season, but...
The other thing that's going to be interesting to see is this going to affect how much he himself, hustles the ball?
I would imagine so. That seems to be with any quarterback who's mobile and agile. If they take a serious injury, especially to the leg, they seem to get a little bit more reserved. Even Carson Wentz, after his torn ligaments, he still gets out there and runs, but that's not his first option anymore. I think if anything, he's going to... But Dak's pretty good. He's pretty good. I think he's already been looking for people, too. I don't think he was really a scrambler. That's only, if there is nothing open, can he take off with it and run? And I think he'll probably still have that capability. He probably won't be as fast as he was.
Yeah.
But I think he would still have that capability to be able to outrun people, be mobile, I think. That's just, of course, pure speculation because I'm not a doctor. But I would think he'd be able to at least move some. You know what I mean? Maybe probably not as good as he does now, but some. But he's got a good pocket presence. If anything, it just means that Dallas is going to have to make sure that he's got a line that can protect him.
Well, yeah, and any team, the first thing is, a good line. You don't want people getting to your quarterback.
Yeah. But when you have an agile quarterback, it's not so much of a problem because they can get out and just run. If you flush a quarterback out, then they just take off and run.
This is true.
There are quarterbacks that can do that, and Dak Prescott was one of those, and he probably, like I said, he'll still probably be fast, but I don't think he'll be as fast, and I don't think he'll be looking for that option as quickly anymore. I think he's going to stay in the pocket, try and be a pocket guy much more now after the injury.
Especially when he first comes back, he's definitely going to be, I think he's going to stay in the pocket a lot more and be a lot more hesitant to take that run.
Yeah.
because something like that's gotta stay in your mind for a while, and that's gonna play some head games.
Yeah, and the offensive line, like you were saying, is important. I mean, even the Eagles are down. I mean, they got injuries, so it's not like they put this makeshift line together. It was the best they could do. It was the best they could do after suffering like 10 injuries on their offensive line total. And Carson Wentz there's nothing. There's just nothing. He drops back and he's hit. He drops back and he's hit. So, what can you do with that? There's not really much you can do with that. So the offensive line is very important. And Carson Wentz, like I said, with his knee injury, he doesn't look to go out and go mobile like he used to after the injury either. So that's why I said he really just he drops back, he takes the hit. He doesn't even have time to even look around or try and scramble sometimes, even though he's trying. But he's been taking a lot of punishment too.
Well, and do you think some of the shakeup we're seeing right now with the teams, do you think there's a little bit of a mental thing going on there because of COVID? Do you think that may have affected the performance of the teams at all with practice, limited practices and not being able to practice as a team there for a little while? And, that, it seems like there's a little bit of cohesiveness missing among some of the teams.
With no preseason, no training camp, yes, I do see that the first few weeks in the NFL were not very good. You could tell teams were still looking for their rhythm, trying to get their feel down. They didn't have all that warm up. So yes, it is partly due to the COVID epidemic that they didn't get the training and stuff that they get at the beginning of every season like they usually do. And I also think it has to do in the games. I mean, a lot of these stadiums, even if they have fans, are only like at 15, 20%, 25% capacity. You're used to playing in front of 60, 70,000 people screaming. And then you go to an empty stadium.
10,000 people in a stadium. You're just not going to get that
roar. No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 10,000 people is not going to get... And some stadiums are still empty. There's still people out there playing with empty stadiums, even though they think we want to hear the crowd noise while we're at home. There's actually no crowd
let's
there.
Talk about the canned crowd noise for a minute.
Yeah, I'm not happy. I don't like it.
I think they just need to do away with it. We all know the stadiums are empty.
Yep.
Let's just do away with the crowd noise
and
just take it for what it is and move forward.
Yeah, who cares? Let us hear some of the shouts and the commands out on the field. I think
that'd be more exciting.
Yeah, and the only thing I can think of is that maybe that the teams don't want it, because then you could watch the tapes back and then try and maybe guess a call based on what the quarterback's calling out. But even if you like take the mics out for when he's there on the line calling the play and stuff, and we don't hear anything, who cares? It's like 2 seconds. We don't need to hear your fake crowd noise. Is the point? We don't want it. You know what I mean? It sounds fake. I mean, it sounds so fake. Yeah. It's not as believable as they think it is.
It's kind of reminds me of like the TV sitcom Canned Applause.
Yeah.
The ha 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 ha.
But it's even worse because the crowd never gets any louder and never gets any lower. It's the same. It's like white noise.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't like the fake. In wrestling, they've been doing empty arenas and stuff too. Just talking about the crowds for a minute is what we're talking about here. What they did is they had all the face wrestlers sit in the stands on one side right up against the ring, and then all the heel wrestlers sit up on the opposite side. So you got cheers and stuff from the hero wrestlers and the villain wrestlers, and that worked.
Yeah,
that was innovative.
I think that's pretty cool.
That was innovative.
Was a good way to handle that.
Yeah, it was very innovative, because the first time they did it, they also tried the fake crowd noise. There was an empty arena. They had the fake crowd noise. No one bought it. They went, and then they started putting wrestlers around just for the cheers and the boos. And I think it was excellent. I loved it. I thought it was out of the box thinking. It was a great way to overcome the empty arena and having that nothing noise sometimes, because there's not a lot of, sometimes it's about watching the wrestling. The commentators don't have to commentate everything, so you're going to have breaks and it'll be quiet. And in wrestling, with wrestlers and the referee talking to each other and giving each other commands, maybe that could come across. So I think the wrestlers around the ringside was a great way to do that. But there's nothing you can do at a football stadium.
Yeah,
that's got 100,000.
There's very few other sports where you'd be able to do
especially
that
especially in an outdoor arena.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Have another team come and cheer for you in the front row.
That could be interesting.
But they have their own football game.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it doesn't work. But I think they should just get rid of the dead crowd noise.
Oh, yeah.
It's enough already. It's enough already, NFL. Are you listening to the Boiling Point podcast? I hope you are.
Here's a clue. Get rid of the fake noise. No one likes it. No one wants it. We're happier without it.
Yes. So
now that that's been addressed.
Yes. You wanted to talk about, well, let's go, since we're talking about injuries and quarterbacks, let's stay on the quarterback. You wanted to talk a little bit about Tom Brady and maybe why he went to the Bucs. Was it money? Was it a personal decision? Was it a team decision? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I was actually going to ask you your opinion on that first.
Oh, you want my opinion first?
Yeah, I want to know what you think about that.
We're extremely organized around here, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you think that he left for money, or do you think he left because of his ego?
I don't think either one of those are the options.
You don't think?
No.
Okay.
I think he just left because it was time.
All right.
There comes a time where, listen, he how long was he there? The Breeze, how long was Tom Brady there? Oh, did you find out the information? Oh, yeah, we did do that. See, I'm all over the place, too. Like I said, we're well organized around here. So, I don't remember what I was going to ask her.
How many seasons was...
Patriots? He was with the Patriots for 20 seasons.
Okay, so 20 seasons he was with the Patriots.
Thank you, Breeze.
Yes, thank you very much, the Breeze, everybody. We would be this.
She
podcast
is the glue that holds this all together.
Yes, it is. Yes, she is. So yeah, Tom, 20 years with a team. I mean, even if he was willing to take a cut in pay or whatever, or a new deal, I think it was just time. They needed to rebuild, and you can't. He's an old quarterback. He's got to be protected. So you can't rebuild your offensive line. You'd have to get known guys who can protect him, which, you know, if you're already dealing with salary cap issues, is not immediately where you can go. You're looking to draft some young guys, pick up some free agents maybe, and, you know, begin rebuilding your team, as every team has to do eventually. So I think it was just the end of their dynasty, and Tom Brady wasn't done yet. Whether the split between the Patriots and Tom Brady was amicable, it was just time, I think, for both. It was just time. Tom Brady's not ready to be done, but it was time for him to be done being a Patriot.
Well, see, and the reason I disagree with you is because if that was the case, typically when a team decides it's time to rebuild, it's time to move on, it's time to do away with their current quarterback, they don't offer that quarterback an amazing package. They don't offer that quarterback and try to entice them to come back. They might give him some sort of little, you know, hey, we're going to give you like a year's salary just because.
Well, like I said, from a team perspective,
overall,
from a team perspective, you don't necessarily just want to lose Tom Brady. But who's to say that even though they offered him that better deal, maybe they also said, you're going to have to compete for your job. We're picking up Cam Newton. You're going to have to, whoever's better is going to play. Which means maybe he ran the risk of sitting underneath another player, running under Cam Newton. You go to a team who needs a quarterback, you're the starter. You're Tom Brady going to another team. There ain't a coach out there that was going to make him compete for the job. He had it.
Well, and that kind of leads me into my opinion. I think Tom Brady went to the Bucs for one reason and one reason only: his ego.
You think?
Because
I mean, ego.
Everybody was saying the only reason he was so good in New England was because of the team that was around him. You know, everybody was saying that, you know, without the team that surrounded him, he wasn't as good of a quarterback as what he was perceived to be.
Well,
and you know, I think that got
flaws. There's a few flaws in that logic, though, because the team is how many players, and I already know I'm not even going to make Bree look this up. How many players were on the team when Tom Brady became the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots?
I have no idea.
0. I will put the number at 0. Let Breeze find if there were any players. I don't know how you're going to look this up, and take your time with it.
Okay.
See if you can look up and see if there are any players that were on the team when Tom Brady became the starter in New England, and who was still on the team when he left New England.
I'm pretty sure the answer is 0.
The answer is 0. But because teams don't hold on to players that long. To the fact that Tom Brady had a 20-year tenure is unheard of, even for Peyton Manning. Eventually, Peyton Manning moved on from the Colts. He went and spent 2 or 3
But
seasons
he wasn't
with the Broncos.
exactly given an option.
It was time for the Colts to rebuild. Joe Montana, let's take it back even further. Joe Montana, the Niners drafted Steve Young. They split the games for a season, and then Joe Montana wasn't ready to be done. He didn't want to be the backup to Steve Young. He wasn't done playing the game. So he went to another team, played 2 more seasons with the Chiefs. It's about, like you said, it's his ego, and you're partly right. But if you're Tom Brady and you have as many rings as you have fingers on your hand and more, then I'm sorry, but if you're making me play behind somebody, I'm going elsewhere. Someone else is buying. If you're not buying, someone else is.
But that still comes back to ego.
I respect that in a way, because it's not just about ego. It's about it's about respect. He's earned certain things in the sport of football. He has. I don't like Tom Brady. Let's just be clear. I'm not a fan of Tom Brady. He is a great quarterback. I don't know if he's the GOAT, but he is an amazing.
I know he is not the GOAT.
He's an amazing and great quarterback, and if I'm sorry, if I'm Tom Brady and the Patriots are like, well, we're gonna less money, whatever, but if you're gonna make me play behind somebody potentially, I'm going. Someone else is buying, and they're saying we need a starter. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what I'm doing. I don't think it's about ego. It's about he's reaching the end of his career, but he's not done yet. He's only got 2 or 3 seasons left. Let's be an optimist here. Let's say he has 5 years left to play this amazing sport. That would be unparalleled because he's Breeze. How old is Tom Brady?
1 second.
Tom Brady is. I mean, he's got to be what 40, 41, right? 42.
I was thinking even older than that. I'm thinking like 44.
So let's just say. So let's go with my number until
could be wrong.
You got it. Go ahead.
It's right in between you guys. He's 43.
So he's 43 years old. Thank you, Breeze. 43 years old. If he's got.
He's a dinosaur.
Yeah, if he's got 5 more years left, he'll be playing at 48. If he has the time, if he stays healthy and can play that long, would you waste a season under somebody?
No, and
that's what I mean by...
If that was the case, then I would totally agree with you.
That's what I'm saying.
That it was time for him to move on in that scenario. But I don't believe that was the scenario.
Yeah, yes.
I don't believe they picked up Cam until after he officially said, I am not coming back.
But they were going to start shopping for another quarterback, is what I'm saying. Either way, whether it was Cam Newton or he's reaching the end of his career. A smart team is already getting ready to figure out who's next, right? That's what you have to do.
Yes.
You have to figure out who's next.
You need to pick up a... If he decided he was going to stay, I think they would have picked up a good backup and trained him to put him in the place when Brady slid out.
But that's also trades and draft picks. We don't know about trades and draft picks. There's a lot of there's a lot of different variables in what we're discussing. But
there's a lot of
it just seems to look, the Patriots weren't doing good. They weren't where they needed to be. And I think that's because Tom Brady eats up a huge chunk of salary. And even if he's willing to accept a pay cut, he's only going to accept it so much. But a new quarterback who you just drafted, or even if you have to deal with Cam Newton for a few years, because Cam Newton, I don't know what he's making, but I can't imagine he's making too much more than he was in Carolina. In fact, he may even be making less. So I'm saying they still saved money by getting Cam Newton and getting rid of Tom Brady, because even if he takes a pay cut, he's only going to take it so much. He's Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So he's still only going to take it so much.
Right there, you played right back into my point about the ego. So let me put you into this scenario. You're Tom Brady. You believe that you are the greatest of all time. I
don't know if he believes that either. So let's not be putting words in his mouth. But
so the image that he puts off is very strongly egotistical. So assuming that is his personality,
but I don't think it is. But go ahead.
Then word is getting out there. People are talking that you're not as good of a quarterback without a good team behind you. that if you wouldn't have had all these great players that were on the New England Patriots the whole time you've been with them,
that's just good coaching.
that you would not have been the quarterback that you are.
But that's
so you take the opportunity to leave to go to the Buccaneers, who, I mean, let's face it, you're Tom Brady. You could have had your pick of multiple teams.
No, because not everybody has the salary cap room for someone like him either.
But
a couple of teams were interested.
Offers.
Yeah, but
so you go to the Buccaneers, which is a team that definitely needs some help.
No, they needed a quarterback because Jameis Winston was just a disappointment. And I mean, he was nothing more than a disappointment.
So he goes to that team, and I believe his goal in going to that team was to show everybody that he is as good as his fans believe he is.
They might. That could have been one of the reasons. I'm saying I don't believe that was the sole reason or even the driving influence of his decision.
I don't know if it was the sole
certainly
reason.
Could have
However,
played in.
I do think it was one of the major factors.
It certainly could have played into it.
I've not found your answer yet, but I found something kind of interesting.
Okay, what's that, Breeze? Breeze has found something interesting for us.
And perhaps I'm just late on this. Since Tom Brady has gone to the Buccaneers, Rob Gronkowski came out of retirement specifically to join his former QB in Tampa.
That is true, and that is a very good point, Breeze. Thank you very much. What she said was that after Tom Brady went to the Bucs, was he out for a whole season? Yeah, he was out for a whole season, right?
Yes.
Because he went to Fox and Rob Gronkowski went, and he was actually a Fox analyst for a year, and then came back out of retirement to join Tom Brady and the Bucs. Okay. If Tom Brady was leaving a team to get away from a team, you don't call your star tight end and say, we need some help. I need some help. And bring your tight end out of retirement to come back to play. So I think that kind of moots that point a little bit there because, and I think, I don't know why Gronk came back. If Tom Brady asked you to come back, you're probably coming back. He says, I want to throw you the ball again. You're going to say yes. Unless there's health reasons. And Gronk was still fairly healthy. So, whether it was money or ego or trying to prove something, it was probably a little bit of everything. It was probably a little bit of everything sprinkled in. To me, it was more that it was time for the Patriots to move on. They needed something different for whatever reason. Because sometimes that just happens. Sometimes quarterbacks, they just get stale. The Colts and Peyton Manning, how long was he with the Colts? How good was he? Couldn't get a ring with them. Went to the Broncos, gets a ring. And who's to say that Tom Brady won't get any rings with the Bucs? He got five or so with the Patriots. He might not get any with the Bucs, but he's not done playing, I think, is ultimately what it came down to.
Okay.
He wasn't ready to be done. And the Patriots, I don't think were just willing to say, you're the starter. You see, especially after the previous season, they struggled. What did the Patriots go last year, Breeze? Let me see if maybe I can look that up real fast. I'm not really sure what the Patriots went last year with their last season as Tom Brady. But to me, that to me what it is kind of what it felt like. Just like the Eagles when they got rid of McNabb. It was just time, even though McNabb was never able to close the deal for him, which I'm sure also had something to do with him getting let go.
McNabb.
But that's what I'm saying. There's teams that have been that spend their careers with a team, but then the team is ready to move on for whatever reason, financially or because they don't have the right people or whatever. New coaches, but the player's not ready to be done yet. He's not ready to retire. So, and he shouldn't. If he's not ready to retire, if he's still healthy, then.
I think I have close to an answer from your first question. This is the closest I've been able to find.
Okay.
Brady started with the Patriots in 2000, and Steven Gostkowski.
The kicker.
Started in 2006.
2006?
Yes.
So that wasn't even 2000.
No.
So there you go. So
yes.
the first thing a while ago that I asked Breeze to look up was about if any players had been on the team when Brady took over
that are still there.
And the answer is no. So, except for Gostkowski, but there's 6 years difference between when Brady joined the Patriots and when Gostkowski joins the Patriots.
2000 to 2006.
Yeah, so 6 years separate them. So you can't. I don't see Brady. I don't believe Brady bought into that because he had a different team all the way
Thanks,
through.
Breeze.
Yes, thank you, Breeze.
You're welcome.
He had a different team throughout the 20 years. Like, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't the team. It was him.
But the team always had incredible talent surrounding him. Which I'm saying is how you want a team to be.
Yeah.
But the argument was that he wasn't carrying the team was carrying him.
Well, my counter to that is Jerry Rice and Steve Young. My counter to that is Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin.
Emmitt Smith. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Is Troy Aikman less of a quarterback because he had a star like Michael Irvin and a star like Emmitt Smith? Steve Young less of a quarterback because how many percentage of his passes? I guarantee you more than half his passes are to Jerry Rice. Does that make them less of a quarterback because they were on a team that got them a good receiver? It's tough. That's a tough call to make because.
Well, but I would argue this.
I don't think. Listen, you can have a great receiver. You can have a great receiver and a really crappy quarterback, and they can struggle. You can have a great quarterback and a crappy receiver, and they can struggle. It takes a great in both positions to make something magical, like the Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, or the Steve Young, Jerry Rice kind of combo.
Okay.
I think it takes something special at both of those positions. So I don't like the argument that the team held him up just because he had a great coaching and scouting staff that gave him amazing players to go around with. That team doesn't still make 5 or 6 Super Bowl wins with Andy Dalton at quarterback. Okay? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, it's not going to...
So, I think this would be an interesting topic to have the viewers put comments in on. I'd like to see what the viewers think about this, what their opinion is.
I ask the viewers to leave comments all the time. They never do. Ms. Pa wants your comments. Of course, so do I, though you probably won't leave them. Who do you think the greatest... Well, let's ask him who the greatest quarterback of all time is. What's your opinion? Who's the GOAT at the quarterback position? I'll give this a quick answer. I personally think it's Peyton Manning. I think it's Peyton Manning because he is the offense wherever he went. It was his system. Even though, when he went to the Broncos, they used a little bit of a different system, but he was given the leeway at the line to call whatever the hell he wanted to call. He was allowed. He was not going to get talked to by the coaches or yelled at by the coaches by audibling it or even changing the play in the huddle, I don't believe. He was the offense. So that's why I would give him the GOAT. There's certainly arguments to be made for Tom Brady with all the Super Bowl rings he has. That has to be considered, of course.
Okay.
But for me, my vote would go to Peyton Manning because just the way he runs the offense, he's the offense. No one else does that like he does. No one else has ever done it like he has. Even Tom Brady with all his rings and stuff, he doesn't. He does it differently, is all I'm saying. But the way Peyton Manning was out there and he's in command. He will orchestrate things right there at the line because if he sees something. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks call audibles, but nobody does what Peyton Manning does.
You know what? I'm...
Who do you think? Who would you choose as the GOAT at the quarterback position?
That's a tough one.
I hope you knew we were leading up to this question.
I mean, I'm a little biased. I personally think Aikman was the greatest of all time.
So, moving on then. Because my co-host here has apparently suffered some kind of head trauma. Troy Aikman? What does that mean? I don't understand. If anybody comments Troy Aikman, then get a CT. I wouldn't even put him in my top 5. You're nuts. You're insanity.
But
you're a Cowboys influencer, aren't you? You influence for the Cowboys. That's what you are. You're just a Cowboys influencer, and that's what you do. Of course, that's completely preposterous, everybody. Whoever's listening to this, I hope you didn't wreck your car. If you're listening to this while driving, I hope you didn't bust a gut laughing, because I certainly found it hysterical, and so did the Breeze. You can't hear her laughing, but I can.
Now, in all reality,
listen, Brett
I would
Favre,
have to go as far back as Joe Montana.
Yeah, listen, Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, Brett Favre, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Did I say Peyton Manning already? Aaron Rodgers. Like, no, I don't know that Troy Aikman's in the top 10. He's definitely not. So
I don't know.
If you're willing, I will accept your
the greatest of all time.
I will switch your.
I was just doing. I mean, I'm a Cowboys fan. I gotta say that.
You just want to talk shit on my show, but I will accept your answer. Joe Montana. Yes, I will accept your answer of Joe Montana. Joe Montana was certainly fantastic. And he was one of the quarterbacks, just like Peyton Manning, just like Tom Brady. Tom Brady, 7th round. Breeze, find out if you could find out, please, for us what round in the draft Joe Montana and Peyton Manning were taken. Because I guarantee you they're low. None of them were first rounders. Just like Tom Brady wasn't taken until the 7th round. I mean, 7th round. You picked up a quarterback from the 7th round, and he took you to what, 5 or 6 Super Bowls?
Montana was the last pick of the 3rd round.
There you go. Okay, and Peyton Manning.
Last pick of the 3rd round. Joe Montana. Other teams were sleeping on that one.
Yep, someone fell asleep at the switch. They lost their job. So we're waiting on Peyton Manning on what draft pick he was. I don't know when in the 7th round Tom Brady was selected, but I do know he was selected in the 7th round. So we already got Joe Montana and Tom Brady, two quarterbacks at least that we're talking about to be the greatest. As a third,
Peyton Manning was first pick in 1998.
The first round?
Yes.
I stand corrected. Peyton Manning was a first round pick in 98. He is one of the few that are great like they were, but picked early. But Joe Montana picked at the end of the 3rd round. Tom Brady not taken until the 7th.
You had mentioned Brett Favre. When was he drafted?
Brett Favre. Can you find out when Brett Favre was drafted? Yeah, certainly Brett Favre. And that's what I'm saying. All those people. And Troy Aikman's good, but I certainly don't know that I would put him in the top 5, I don't think. I mean, he did win 3 Super Bowls. I'll give him that. He did win 3 Super Bowls. And again, I won't take anything away from the receivers or the personnel that you had around you.
Brett Favre was in the 2nd round.
Brett Favre was a 2nd round pick, which is still pretty astonishing considering his career. You would think he would be a first rounder as well. But the Cowboys.
Just because I want to know, and I don't know offhand, when was Troy Aikman drafted?
All right, sure. Find one more. Where was I going with that? Oh, Dak Prescott is a quarterback that 2 years ago, I thought Dak Prescott was one of the quarterbacks who were better than he actually was because of the personnel around him. I didn't think he was as good as the team was allowing him to be. So I do understand that argument. That the team around you can make you better than you are, and it certainly can. And Dak Prescott, I thought, was one of those quarterbacks until I saw what he did last season and what he was doing this season. I think he is going to be good. I don't think it was just the team. I think he is good. I think he's maturing very nicely. I'm actually sorry he got injured so badly because I think he was going to have a breakout season this year. I think he was going to do some stuff.
Makes me very happy to hear that from you because I know we have had that argument numerous times.
Yes, Dak. I have not been a Dak Prescott fan before. I've trashed him. Prior to the last season and then what I was seeing from him this year. I did not think he was all that good.
Wait and see.
And I think he's matured. I still think at the times that I said that he was not as good. I think he's matured and grown into himself, and I think he's a much better quarterback.
Oh, he absolutely needed some refining.
Ezekiel Elliott, on the other hand, I thought was going to be one of the greatest running backs. I thought he was going to be like Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith. I thought Ezekiel Elliott was going to be crushing fucking records, rushing records. Yeah, I thought he was going to be blowing stuff out of the water. And man, did he let us down. Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, when was Troy Aikman drafted?
Troy Aikman was the first overall draft pick in 1989.
First overall.
Yep, yes. First round, first overall for Troy Aikman.
In what year?
He was not one of those people. 89. Yeah.
All right.
He goes back a ways.
Yeah.
But Ezekiel Elliott, I thought he was going to be one of the feature back of the future, man. I thought he was going to be the guy breaking records that was going to try and get Barry Sanders a run.
And he was, he came
yeah,
out
and I don't know
strong.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was some
I don't know
off-field
what
stuff
happened to him,
because he had some off-field things happen in his second or third year that maybe influenced his on-field activity. Perhaps I don't know, but he's certainly not. He's not what he's way better than what we've been seeing out of Zeke. I mean, I'm a Zeke fan, and I'm very disappointed in what I've been seeing out of him. I'm not happy at all. And Pollock, you guys' backup running back, man, he's looking good. If I was the coaches, I'd be leaning towards Pollock. I'd be like, yo, let's just get Pollock in there. He can run these 4 and 5 yards right up the middle and get those chunks, those little chunks that we need. Zeke, I don't know. When I see him run, it seems like he's looking so much for the big breakout run that he's missing the hard yards he could be earning every carry. And the hard yards lead to the openings where you get down the field. It's just he's constantly looking to have that breakout run. That's just, to me, that's just my opinion. When I see him run, it looks like he's constantly looking for the big breakout and not just for what he can get.
Well, and he's another one that a lot of people argue that his ego's getting in his way.
I could fully see with Zeke. I could see that, yeah. And don't ask me what the difference is between Tom Brady and Zeke and why I think that about Zeke and not about Tom Brady, because I couldn't put that into words for you.
You knew that was going to be coming.
Just a feeling that I have with Zeke. Just the way, I don't know, just his demeanor, his mannerisms and stuff. Zeke's coming off as arrogant as, he's owed things or something like that. And I'm like, dude, you don't have a great offensive line right now. Shut up and get the tough yards. That's what a running back does.
Yeah.
So you don't have 5 Pro Bowlers knocking the entire defense down and allowing you to get into the secondary before you get touched. See, that's why I'm thinking, because I thought I saw flashes and things of him that meant he was going to be a great back. But
he's got the talent.
But now that I see him, he doesn't want those hard yards, and I don't know that he's not going to be a great back without getting the hard yards.
See, that's the thing that disappoints me. Like, you see those flashes. You see that talent's there.
Not this season.
I mean, you can still see moments where that talent's there.
I watch a lot of football, and I know you haven't gotten to see a lot, and I know a lot of people haven't gotten to see a lot, but what I've seen from the Cowboys, I don't mean to cut you off, I'll let you finish. But what I've seen from the Cowboys is that if I was the coach of the Cowboys, I'd be handing the ball off to Pollock. I'd be like, Zeke, why don't you go sit down for a while? Sit down for a quarter or two.
The little bit that I've caught this year, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
And here's just what I've seen with Zeke. I think he got the big money. He got a big head.
Got a bunch of facial piercings.
And now he's becoming his own brand. And
yeah,
I think, but
he's not a brand yet.
For just for comparison, I think he is going to become the next Dennis Rodman without the success.
So Terrell Owens.
Yeah, exactly.
That is bad news for you, Zeke. Please don't do that. Please don't end up that way.
That's exactly where I see him headed.
Yeah, we don't want to.
If he doesn't get a new,
but that's not what we want to see. We want to see him do good, but
absolutely,
he is just not.
He's an incredibly talented player. He's just surrounded himself with the wrong managers and the wrong people.
Maybe he's got the wrong mindset, perhaps too.
Correct.
A lot of things could be a factor, but he's definitely I believe he's a better runner than he's certainly showing to be right now.
But I mean, moving on in topic.
But running games are important.
Oh,
is that
absolutely.
where you want to go next? Running game?
Yes.
Running game is very important. The Eagles. That's one of my arguments with the complaints with the Eagles right now. Is
by the way, smoking's bad. Okay.
Yeah, it is, but it's okay because Wise Joe also likes to smoke on the show, and I have viewers who enjoy when I have guests who smoke, because then when you light up a cigarette, they light up a cigarette. It's true. It's true. People have told me. That's the problem with the Eagles right now. I like Doug Peterson. I think he's a great coach, but right now they are relying too much heavily on the pass, and I know it's because of offensive line injuries and running back injuries. Their main guy, Miles Sanders, has been out for a bunch of games this season. But you can't just pass the ball. You have to have a run game. You're not going to succeed in today's NFL without both. You need both. If I don't think I've ever seen it more true in today's NFL than at any time in the past or at least my living past, since the 90s. Since 90 at least.
Well, I think it's because the NFL is in a little bit of a transition zone right now. You always go from, you'll have years that are very heavy run. Everything seems to be very run oriented. And then that'll be followed up with a year that seems to be very heavy pass oriented. And usually there's a year or two in between where there's a bit of a mix there because nobody really seems to know which way to go with it.
Yeah.
Because they're always looking for that competitive edge.
Yeah.
If you're up against a team that's focused heavy on the run, you focus heavy on the pass.
Yeah. I think in today's NFL, though, you have to have a balance. You have to be able to run the ball, and you have to be able to pass the ball. And the Eagles aren't running the ball enough.
Do you think it'll stay that way?
For a little while. I mean, like you said, it changes. I mean, we're in 2020, the 2020 season. So you got to even figure 8 years ago, around 2010, 2011, it was passing all the time. Remember, the running game was almost out the door 10 years ago. Teams had very little run game.
And when you watched it on TV, you spent more time looking at the ball going through the sky than you did players on the field.
Yeah. But then, and even in the 90s, when I grew up, the run game was huge. Was huge in the 90s. It wasn't until the end of the 90s that the passing, like going downfield once a game, started becoming a necessity for your offense.
I miss seeing?
It was. See, the thing, when it transitioned off from running and started becoming more passing was when they developed the West Coast style offense. Steve Young helped a lot with that kind of offense, because even in the 90s, the Niners were they had some good running backs during their run, during their height. But Steve Young, Jerry Rice, they were crushing it. So
absolutely,
he was like that was like the start of the transition of the passing game, and then we started getting quarterbacks that were capable and wide receivers that were capable. That also has to do with it too. It's what comes out of the draft.
Yeah, absolutely.
We go every 10 years, we seem to have a flood of running backs, and then the 10 years after that, we'll have a flood of quarterbacks or wide receivers. Like it really depends on who's coming out of the draft and when as well.
Yes, it very much does. But you know what I'd like to see come? I'd like to see. Remember back when we were younger, and you could see those long, kick returns.
Yeah.
80, 90-yard runs.
Those are harder now because of the rule changes.
Yeah, because of the rule changes, you don't see that anymore, and I feel like that there was a little bit of the excitement of the game that was lost with some of that.
Yeah, there was. We had one this year. There was one this year. I think there's been a kick return and a punt return this year. And believe it or not, there was an onside kick this year. I saw it happen. I couldn't believe it. Craziest thing I've seen since they made all the rule changes for the onside kicks and stuff. Because since the rule change, I think it's like 11% of onside kicks get recovered now.
It's that high?
Yeah, I know, right? That's what I'm saying. It's because there's been like 4 of them since the rule change. Flukes. Random occurrences. But
dumb luck.
Yeah, but I think the game is an ever-evolving game. Like, it's just, as a constant transition to something else, you have to be on top of it. But I think as long as you have a balanced run game, a good run game, good pass game, then you can, like the Patriots. I mean, it wasn't all Tom Brady. Their dynasty wasn't all Tom Brady. They had good wide receivers. They had good running backs.
Quite a few.
They had good defenses. So it wasn't just Tom Brady. He was just, because he's the quarterback, the head of the ship. That's, he gets everything. But it wasn't just him. There was, there's 55 people on a football roster. So it wasn't just Tom Brady that won those Super Bowls.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It takes a team to make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's not just one person.
No.
And there could be an argument made for, trifectas like, the you had mentioned earlier, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Sanders.
Yeah.
But still, how good would they have been without a good line?
Yeah.
Good blockers.
Yep.
So without, it's one of the few sports that I think
requires a whole team.
Really puts the biggest focus on teamwork.
Yeah. Baseball, basketball, obviously that requires a level of teamwork that is even probably a little bit more than football.
And I would agree with that.
But I
That's
do
why I
agree
said
with
one
you.
of the few.
Yeah, I do agree with you though that it is like, I think that's what makes it the greatest sport, is that it's a simple game that is about who's better, 11 guys against 11 guys. You take a football across the line. Nothing can be more simple than that. And but how to accomplish that job and the best way to go about getting that ball to move across the line is such a complex question. That's why I love football, because it's so easy and yet so complicated at the same time.
Well, and that comes down to the coaching.
Yeah.
So, I mean, coaches. You can have the most talented team in the world.
Yep.
And if you have a
bad
coach
Yep.
that can't coach his way out of a paper bag, that team's going nowhere. Jason Garrett.
Chip Kelly.
Damn.
Get the
Got
frog out of your throat.
that little bit of a frog in my throat.
And some coaches can't make the transition from college to pros, because let's talk about that for a minute. The difference between college football and professional football, and how just because you're a coach in one doesn't mean you're going to be able to be a good coach in the other.
Oh, absolutely.
Chip Kelly.
Very much Chip Kelly.
Because some coaches come up and think that it's like college, Chip Kelly, and they think that they can run on offense like they do in college, Chip Kelly. And the thing about the NFL, Chip Kelly, is that you can't do that, Chip Kelly.
By the way, Chip Kelly, if you're listening, please comment below.
Yes. Please, someone share this to Chip Kelly's social media page. But no, you can't run the kind of offense that he wanted to run from college in the pros. He wanted to run that no huddle, get everybody up on the line, and that's great for college when you have 155 players on your roster, when you can rotate out whoever you need to
And constantly have somebody fresh.
because they're tired. Yeah, in the NFL you can't do that, because your defense ends up being on the field for 40 or 45 minutes in a game, and that is terrible.
And they're sucking oxygen when they get off.
And it doesn't matter how good you are, if you don't score on your fast-paced no huddle offense every time out, your defense is not going to be able to stop them after being on the field for 40 and 45 minutes in a game. And that was one thing.
Just grind.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that Chip Kelly even tried to. The 2 seasons with Chip Kelly was other than Richie Kotite way back in the 90s, was one of the. I never hated the head coach of the Eagles so much than Chip Kelly and Richie Kotite, because they are both idiots who did not know how to run a football team or how to coach it. Because Chip Kelly, you can't run a professional team like a college team. You just can't do that, because there's many differences, not just the amount of players that you have.
But the question I would pose to you is, knowing that what Chip Kelly was doing was failing miserably and epically,
Catastrophically.
as the owner of that team, why didn't you step
Apocalyptically.
in and do something to stop that?
Oh, because Jeff Lurie, he did after 2 seasons. I don't agree with
With
the exception of Chip Kelly. If I was the owner after the first season, I would have said to Chip Kelly, "This isn't working. You need to change." If he didn't change, then you got to give him a second season. I don't know if Jeff Lurie actually talked with him about that, but the 2 seasons, I get the 2 seasons. I don't know if there was any conversations about how you're managing the team, but the fact that Jeff Lurie fired him after 2 years means that he was not happy.
Well, would you have been?
No, I would not have been happy in practice. If I would have saw that practice, I'd have been like, what? No, please, no. Tell me I didn't just hire a coach that's going to do this. No, please, no. I mean, I would have had maybe needed some medication. If I even saw that in practice, let alone the first game, I'd have had a stroke.
And then, but at the same time, as an owner, there's that fine line between being an owner and letting the coach coach.
Exactly.
And being too involved, like...
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like Dan Snyder.
Or...
For the Washington football team.
Or...
Redskins.
Or Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones. Didn't he get you guys a Super Bowl? Didn't Jerry Jones get you guys a Super Bowl? I thought Jerry Jones got you guys a Super Bowl.
but he's too involved with the team.
Oh, Jerry Jones. Oh, Jerry Jones. Yep, sorry. He was thinking Jim Johnson. Your
Yes.
old coach. Yep, that's my bad, everybody. I am needing to take a break soon to have some focus. That's an inside joke for some listeners who may or may not be listening. But Jerry Jones. No, Jerry Jones is he too involved? I mean...
Yeah, I based on some things that I've
Yeah,
seen
you're right.
over
I've
the
heard...
years,
Yeah, you're right. I think he is...
he really had Jason Garrett pretty much
well, Jason Garrett's
under wraps.
Yeah, well, Jason Garrett's a fool.
He favored Jason Garrett way too long.
Yeah, listen, ultimately,
I mean,
Jason Garrett's to blame ultimately for that because, listen, I don't care if the owner's telling you something, you're the head coach. If you're not winning because the owner is telling you something, you need to change it. If the owner is telling you something to change something because what you're doing isn't working, and then you still don't change it, you're fired. And I think Garrett was... Yeah, I think you're right. I think Garrett was there too long. I think he...
But the thing with Jones, if you're not doing what he tells you to do...
Exactly.
He still fires you.
Yes. But at least you're fired as a winning coach. That's the difference. That's ultimately the difference that I saw for Jason Garrett. If it is Jerry Jones and you're still listening to him and you're losing, you're going to be fired. Why not listen to him, win some games, and be fired? Because you're going to be fired, right? I mean, we know that from Jerry Jones. If you don't listen to him, you're fired. Yes, we all know that. If you don't win, you're fired. So wouldn't you rather win some games and then be fired? So that's why I blame Jason Garrett for that, because he didn't do anything to change it. I don't care if Jerry Jones was in his ear. I don't care if Jerry Jones was in his ear. He's still the coach. He should have made some decisions to win some games before he was fired. Because he was going to be.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah. Now, with the Eagles, I like Doug Peterson. I hope he's around for a while. I think he's good. I don't know exactly what he's doing this year. And I would love to sit down with him and have a podcast episode so I can ask him exactly what the hell he's doing.
I think we just need to give everybody a pass this year.
No, I don't want to do that.
Because this year is just so screwed up. And so, I mean, it's all over the damn place.
Yes.
I mean, let's talk about the Browns for a minute.
Yeah, the Browns. They're doing good.
I mean,
who would have thought that?
What is the Browns' record right now? Hey, Breeze.
Yes, sir.
What is the Browns' record right now?
5-3-1.
Yeah, that was my thought too. I'm looking for the confirmation.
5-2-1. We will get confirmation from the Breeze, but yeah, the Browns are certainly doing good.
They're not last.
The last time they had winning seasons was in 2002 and in 2007. Which
was how long ago?
13 and 18 years ago.
Yeah.
They're doing good. They got a good team. They got a good coach now that seems to be a good coach.
5-3-0.
5-3-0.
5-3-0. 5-3-0. I thought they were, for some reason,
Thanks,
I thought they were
Breeze.
one of the teams that had the tie. Yes, 5-3-0. They're positive. They certainly have a good chance to go deep into the season this year and then make a playoff run at it. And that's crazy to me.
And it's like overnight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were good last year.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, since they got Baker Mayfield and then they fired... Excuse me, everybody. When they picked up Baker Mayfield and then they fired the coach. Since then, now that the rest of that season, they had an interim coach who I don't know the names of any of those people. Sorry. But it's since then, since they fired the coach and got Baker Mayfield, they've been improving slowly every season. They've been getting better every season because they add more and more personality.
Of an improvement.
Over the last 3-4 seasons, yeah.
Okay.
Because Baker Mayfield's what, in his 5th season?
I thought it was his 3rd.
How long has Baker Mayfield been with the Browns?
The Breeze is coming in very handy. I do have my tablet right here, but I can still talk and host while she looks it up. And it helps us a lot on the podcast. The Breeze is very important. I always like when
Ms. Pa.
I always like when Ms. Pa and the Breeze are here because my job as hosting the podcast certainly becomes a little bit easier. But yeah, since picking up Baker Mayfield, that's when they've been, getting marginally better. They had problems with the coaches his first year, maybe his second, and then they got rid of him, and then they hired somebody new, and since then they've been getting better and better. Slowly, like over the last 3 or 4 seasons.
He was drafted in 2018.
Slowly, after the last 3 seasons.
Yes.
So 3 seasons, I was right.
So slowly after over the past 3 seasons. But yes, I mean, a little bit, yes. Like
Counting this season.
Depending on how far they go. If they end up going, if they win, if they only lose another 2 or 3 games and go with the rest with wins, then yeah, you're right. It is going to kind of come out of nowhere, because last year they were marginally better than the year before, and they certainly look better than they have in a long time this year. So I expect them to do pretty good. They're certainly going to make a run for their division and try and get into the playoffs. Although we're there with the Steelers, so I don't think they're going to win the division. They're going to have to fight for a wild card spot.
Didn't they just go 0-16
4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago? No, not with Baker. Not with Baker Mayfield. Yeah, it was prior to Baker Mayfield that they went 0-16. Yes, it was not with Baker Mayfield.
And we had talked about this earlier, but I believe there was 5 teams that have gone winless in a season.
Yeah, I think that's what the Breeze told us earlier when we were discussing some of the facts and topics. Yes, 5 teams have gone 0-16.
We've just gotten that confirmation from the Breeze.
Yes. Do you have what those teams are?
I do, yes.
Yes, she has those teams standing by for us. That's excellent. Breeze, go ahead. And do you have a website so we can source this?
Let me see here.
It's important to make sure we source where we get some of the information that we have.
Yeah, we got to get better at that.
Sports Illustrated.
Sports Illustrated. Okay.
And it says since 1944.
So since 1944, 5 teams have gone 0-16, and those teams are
Dallas Cowboys.
the Cowboys. Hey, there you go. Shout out to Mizpah.
The Buccaneers.
The Bucks. Yep, I do remember that.
Baltimore Colts.
The Baltimore Colts. So that dates back before the Colts were in Indianapolis.
Correct.
Okay.
The Detroit Lions.
Detroit Lions.
Oh,
and
man.
the Cleveland Browns.
And
the Browns.
Yep. Oh, man. So how do you feel that the Cowboys are on that list?
That's an interesting list.
Yeah, it is. It is certainly a list of the worst teams in the NFL history. And the Cowboys are on it.
Well, I was just glad to see that, somebody finally threw the Eagles a bone and let them get a Super Bowl.
Yeah, let them get a Super Bowl. Yeah, let them get a Super Bowl. Who did they beat again? Who did they beat? Do you remember who they beat? Do you remember who they beat? Because they beat the Patriots. Oh, yes, that's right. They beat the, 5 or 6 time Super Bowl champion Patriots. And they did it with a Philly special. And we did it with our backup quarterback. So, talk all the shit you want, because I just owned you.
One ring.
So we're moving along.
One ring.
Hey, it doesn't matter. It's a ring. That's all that matters. It's a ring. And it's recent. When have the Cowboys won the last championship? 25 years ago?
Here's what I will say.
25 years ago?
I was, and it pains me to say this, being a Cowboys fan.
That it's been 25 years since you won a ring?
I was actually rooting for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl.
Well, that's because you started to let some of the goodness seep into you.
No,
but
instead,
you could have embraced it.
Stand the Patriots getting another ring.
So you weren't for the Eagles. So you weren't for the Eagles. You were against the Patriots. That's an important distinction.
Very much.
That's an important distinction. So for a brief moment, you let the goodness waft over you, and instead you had to just say, "No, I like the evil," and go back to the Cowboys. But they haven't won a Super Bowl in 25 years, and that's all I have to say about that. See, all those times of the Eagles, you don't even have a ring, But see, now I got a recent ring, and your team hasn't won in 25 years. So that's how that works, everybody. So we pretty much...
Sure as hell ain't happening this year.
Well, no. No.
For either of us.
No. No, the NFC East is a big pile of poo.
The fact that
all 4 teams still have a chance. It's still wide open. It's still completely wide open for the NFC East. No team. I mean, well, it's early in this. Well, I guess we're about halfway, so some teams should be getting at least more statistically ahead of some of the lower ones. But no, all 4 teams in the NFC East is completely open. It's the NFC East, and there's another division that it's like that too. The NFC East, and then I think another division, the NFC, actually.
So the NFC in general.
The NFC is in shambles right now. That's right. We have Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, we pretty much covered a lot of different things in football there. You want to, think we should call it there?
Yeah, I think I'm good with that.
I think we're going to wrap this podcast up, especially since we are at 1 hour and some odd minutes. So I hope you enjoyed the show talking about football. Maybe you learned something. If you like the show, comment, share, subscribe.
Visit the links and buy some merch.
Yep, visit the links and buy some merch. They will be in the description of this video, both in YouTube, and then you can also find the links on Facebook. That's facebook.com/The Boiling Point Podcast. This has been Mizpah. I am JD.
Comments stating how great the Cowboys are.
No, none of those comments. But, no, seriously. He's Mizpah. I'm JD. And that's the end.